Good morning. I'm very happy to
Good morning.
talk to an old friend, Steve Ross, who I've known 30, 40 years, wouldn't you guess?
I don't remember when we met. It must have been when I was playing at the Algonquin or something.
Yes, and maybe did I
That was
get
50 years ago, Mark.
did I get CDs directly from you maybe at that time to sell?
Well, yeah, I think we were involved with the CD issues, and then along the way, thanks to you, I did a show at the Library of Performing Arts. It was a rare Noel Coward show, and you said record it. You turned it into a very nice record, which is
It
I'm
was
very proud of, and
because I
I'm great.
initially
I'm grateful to you for all the work you do for us.
I initially thought, oh, I'll write down the songs I like. And I said, I like
Right.
them all. So I said, let's do the whole concert.
That,
It was a little
we
difficult.
like to hear that. And it turned. How long ago was that?
I said 5
Maybe
years
10
ago.
years ago or something like that. I can't remember.
Anyway,
I think it
let
was a bit more. It's all rather blurry these days.
anyway, so let's go back to your being born. You were born in the Bronx. Do I remember there was the where's your birthplace?
No. I was born in. I was born in. I was born in Indochina. No, I was born in New Rochelle.
New Rochelle, right? Yeah.
In New Rochelle, New York. New Rochelle, happy to keep his dinner warm
Yeah.
as he goes on with an opera. Everything is a musical comedy
Were
reference, as you
were
know.
you very pleased when you heard that line? Recall when you first heard that line?
Well, I never thought there would be a song. Well, of course, there's a.
But they sing New Rochelle. They repeat New Rochelle, New Rochelle, New Rochelle. It's I don't
The
know.
great one of the great bedroom
I don't know why he would have
communities
chosen New
of people who
Rochelle.
work in Manhattan. It's, it's 45 minutes from Broadway. That's the other reference.
Okay, right.
George and Cohan. Scars
Is is your
Jail.
abode
Maybe they don't say Larchmont. I guess it has the right number of syllables.
uh, is your birthplace still
And
existing?
I'm sorry.
Is your birthplace still there? Is that home still there?
I drove by it a couple of years. Well, the birthplace is the New Rochelle Hospital, but I didn't. I didn't live. We didn't live there very long.
Right, and then you moved to Maryland. Is that
We soon moved to one county. Moved to Dutchess County, one county north, where my father had a farm, and then
is that a
we
gentleman's
moved back
farm?
to New
What
Rochelle, and then
he was just referred to as a gentleman's farm.
yeah, I wasn't Milhouse. Yeah, no, it was that he had a job in town, and he would drive in for that, and we still lived on the farm. We didn't work the farm; we had somebody doing that, but that was in the 40s, and then we moved down to Washington D.C. because my father got a job in the government, and that's basically where I grew up and had my lessons and
Your mother played the
began
piano.
my life of music.
Am I correct? Your mother
Mother was the
played?
pianist for sure. Yeah, she was the one. She gave me the gift of music, and for which I am forever grateful, of course. And I always tell the story that she would be playing the piano, and I, a little toddler that I was, would come in and want to talk to her. And she could play the piano. She continued to play the piano and talk to me. And she played by ear. She was playing the popular songs of the day. So I thought, well, I guess that's what you did. You talked and you played. But someone who just could read the music would say, I can't. I'm reading the music. I can't talk to you. But that acceptance of that fact stood me in good stead when I played in piano bars, and I had to keep playing and talking to the people who were giving me tips. We hoped. So and she played the songs of the day and Gershwin and the popular songs, some classical stuff too as well.
But did
But
you sing along at some point? Did you
no, the
sing with
singing,
her?
absolute singing came much later. I never thought I could sing.
You weren't
And
comfortable singing until
no,
you were put in a situation where you pretty much had to.
well, I My aunt, who was my Auntie Mame, had a very pretty voice, but I was never so much conscious of singing except on the radio. In the 40s, there was a lot of singing on the radio. But I think somebody made a comment in my family about my voice once, and as I was a little kid. But so I never did much singing. But when I came to New York at age 30, uh, I was going to this bar, and they said, "Well, you sing too, don't you? If you want this job, you have to sing." And I said boldly, "Yes, of course I sing." Then I had to figure out what it is that I knew how to sing. I had sung a little bit in Washington. I had another friend who was a year older than I am who was very show busy. He had already been to Provincetown and he'd been to New York, and he was very sophisticated at age 19. And he said, "Oh, you have to be a singer." So I say I had a couple of little jazz jobs and I sang a couple of tunes, but I had no confidence in singing. But when I moved to town and started my lessons, and I've been with maybe over these years 5 or 6 different teachers, 7, it was difficult for me. So when I sing, every note, number one, I paid a lot of money for, but the words of singing and the process of singing are very important to me, as opposed to maybe, I don't know, an Italian guy that comes out of the womb singing and it's effortless. Or if you're in a black church choir, you just sing all your life. There was not singing in the family, so I had to acquire that taste, which I think, as I look back, was a good move because it made me feel more conscious of the words. Since I didn't have the big notes, I found songs that had interesting words that could convey the sentiment. Later on, I acquired a proper voice, but at the beginning, it was wordy, funny songs that I used to sing. I thought they were funny anyway. Songs from the music hall. I had a name you may know. I had we had 78 records, of course, is what I grew up on. And there was a 10 year 78 album of someone named Beatrice Kay. You remember her?
BK, yes, yes.
Beatrice Kay was a radio star, and she had a wonderful album where she sang songs from the gay 90s. And I love that. She sang a music hall song called "Don't Go in the Lion's Cage Tonight," which was my first public performance. And she sang a couple of others, and I loved playing them. So it was kind of that light-hearted song that I started with, and I never thought that I could sing a love song. But one night I did, and people seemed to enjoy it and be impressed by it. So then I realized that was a door that was finally open to me. And I think people want to hear love songs because they've either been in love or want to be in love, or they're blues or they're happy. And that's why I always say in my shows that if there were not unrequited love, I'd be out of a job. There are happy songs about love. I mean, Oscar Hammerstein, etc. But most of the time, they're looking for some kind of a palliative for their sadness, or some kind of sentiment of that they will find it. That's why there are thousands of love songs to choose from. And in the American Songbook, it's a gold mine because all of the great composers wrote these beautiful songs for people like Fred Astaire, Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra to sing. So I can dip into that for programs until the end of my life. I work on the songbook, as it's now called. It wasn't called the songbook when we started out, but is now the American Songbook, which was 20s, 30s, and 40s for the song the period, mainly the 30s. That's where I find the real gold in the songs in popular music, frankly.
Now, when you find a new piece of sheet music, you first work on playing the tune and then start to, well, what is your process for learning the song?
Good question. I have the same process as my great heroine, Mabel Mercer. The words have to mean something. Just think of what I've just said. The words have to be meaningful and that I can connect with them. Even a less than great tune, and it's hard to write a great original tune. A less than great tune, you can make it up with the accompaniment. You can kind of jazz it up and make it full. But if the words are meaningful, and there are, Um, I learned the words first. I mean, I played the tune and I said, "Gee, I can work this out. I'll make a modulation. I'll make it a little bit more interesting." But if the words are something, if it's are my principal concern, and if someone sends me, and I do get beautiful original songs. Um, I'm doing a song in my next show by a very prolific composer by the name of Brian Gary, whom you may know, who writes
Very,
many, many songs. And he
very
wrote
good
this
friend. It's very nice you're
beautiful,
doing.
yes, I think you worked with him.
Yes.
Anyway, he writes a lot of songs. His passion is writing songs. And he wrote this beautiful bossa nova song. He loves Brazilian songs, as do I. And I've recorded it for him. And it spoke to me immediately. And that's the kind of song that I would sing. Simple or clever, but it has to mean something to me. The cleverness doesn't have to mean it has to be funny, but the heartfeltness of it has to work. But I tell you, I mean, there's so many songs by all of the great composers, much less the one or two, three song wonders that I will never exhaust the possible programming from those people. And so I sing Berlin again, Cole Porter, Noel Coward. I feel at this point in my career that it's important for me to sing those songs so that people know what they are, that they have a veteran practitioner, which is me, singing them and giving them pretty much the way they were meant to be sung. I don't veer too far away from the original intention of the composers and the lyricists. Sometimes I make a different kind of adjustment, or arrangement, but most of the time I try to present the song fairly straightforwardly, and if it's powerful and it's good, it works.
And you have quite a collection of sheet music, and I guess you are always acquiring new stuff.
Well, fortunately, I have my great pal Michael Levine, who is the king of sheet music here in town. I don't acquire anymore. At this point in my life, I'm trying to de-acquisition, not acquisition anymore. So he will email me. I mean, I do have a great collection of sheet music, but I rarely refer to it. Sometimes I do. It's sitting there, but this is not the age for paper. It's, as you know, and I have so many reference books, but I find that I'm really trying to winnow out that collection and keep the reference books that I need. That great collection of the complete lyrics of all these people is a very important collection. Porter, Mercer, Kern, Berlin. So I have those books and some other books too, but mainly for reference purposes because everything can be found on Wikipedia and on the internet. So when I'm doing my research for my new shows, I I can find the comments and bits of this thing, but I keep a lot of them. And the sheet music I've had for years. I mean, it's yellowed, it's crumbling, but I'm very attached to it. So that's what I keep for you.
But you have thousands of songs on sheet music?
I would say probably in my cabinet, maybe, I don't know, a couple of thousand songs. The sheet music thereof, I will never open a given, I will never see it. So the problem is, as it always is these days, what to do with that. I don't know what to do with that. I'm very dilatory. I put it off. So somebody else will have to cope with it. But so I pretty much don't learn a lot of new tunes these days. When people send me new songs that are good, I try to incorporate them. But when I'm hired to work, they kind of want the classics. They kind of want what they heard me sing or what is accustomed to them. And my audience is middle-aged plus. So they want the songs that they heard when they were growing up, which is absolutely fine. The most recent songs I sing are songs from the 70s, that singer-songwriter period, which are beautiful. Joni Mitchell and Carole King. Those I can make work at the piano. When we move on into the 80s, into the more rock and roll stuff, that doesn't work for me. But the 70s songs are mellow and quite beautiful. Anyway, so that's what I do. and I have so many songs and so many shows that I just kind of reboot and rejig the songs that I have, and that seems to keep my audiences happy.
You know, I was amazed as to how many foreign places you've played.
Yes, I've been lucky. I'm not sure I believe in astrological signs, but I do seem to fit the Sagittarian profile. I'm going to Dubai on Sunday, in fact,
Well,
and that remains to be seen. Yeah, that's an interesting gig that came up. A friend of a friend who knows everybody, knew the chap who was running the American Pavilion at this massive World's Fair Expo in Dubai going on now. And she said, "Well, whom do you have doing the songbook?" And because they had dancers, they had some country music. And he said, "Well, come to think of it, not anybody." So that's where I fit in. And I will be, whether they pay attention or not, I hope they do. I hope somebody gets what I'm up to. But I feel honored to be able to represent in a brief show some of the highlights from Broadway and from Hollywood and from Tin Pan Alley. You can't do much in 45 minutes, but at least they get a sense of someone sitting at the piano and singing songs, which is what the composers did. So I try to be their representative in this effort.
do you enjoy your time in a new location? Will you
I'm sorry?
sightsee? Do you enjoy your time when you're not performing? Will you do a little
Oh, yes.
touristy stuff? I mean, you go to London, you go into art
Oh,
galleries and
yeah, well, I would like to say yes to burnish my image, but I don't. When I go there, I see friends, of course. Sometimes I'm able to make the extra time. I mean, people say, "Do you take vacations?" No, my vacation is I'm living my vacation. I'm living my dream of making music. So when I travel to places, it's generally connected with music, and often I don't have the luxury of staying on afterwards or going before. But I do love it. I went recently down to Washington, D.C. to participate in a reunion of my high school. Thank you very much. And while down there, my companion and I did go to the National Gallery, which is magnificent. And then I realized how much visual art means to me, and I so miss it when I don't get a chance to see it. But I do what I can.
let's go back to some of the early days. So, what's the first nightclub you really participated in New York?
As as going to just to see
No,
someone
no, no, singing.
playing the nightclub. I mean, bar. You're not talking about piano bars,
Well, yeah, yes, yes,
or
yes, yes, piano bar.
because the first job I had was in a oh no, the first job I had was in a roadhouse. Remember roadhouses in Maryland? That I was in high school, and I think I had come back from the army, and my father and mother wanted to get me out of the house, and my mother had where she was working. She said, "Oh, gee, I have this friend who has this job in this little joint in Laurel, Maryland." So I went there, and it was a bassist and a drummer and a clarinet player and me, and I'd never had a little gig like that. So I went there, and it was very exciting for me. I mean, I drove my car there, and we didn't know many songs in common, although I knew a lot of popular songs. So the song we all knew was Laura. That was because that was the guy's daughter's name or something. So we played Laura a few hundred times that night as a swing number and a cha-cha. Anyway, so that was my taste of it. I remember it was so exciting because I felt I had arrived at the end of the gig, which was already 1 o'clock or something. They said, "Well, we're going out for breakfast now." And then we found some other place. And the idea of eating at 1 in the morning was so thrilling that I said, "Oh, today I am a man. Today I am part of the music world." And so then it went on from there, and I found some nice jobs in Washington, D.C., at a nice piano bar, a couple of joints, a couple of nice ones. The first one there was ragtime. because I'd always had a great love of ragtime music, and there was a ragtime kind of revival in the early '60s. Playboy Club, they were coming up a ragtime revival, and they had this club there, and I played there, and I loved it. And so I, to this day, have a great respect for ragtime and stride music, and I do a little bit of that myself. And then I moved, then that went on and on and on, and then I finally moved to town and got a job, and here I am.
Did your mother get to see you perform in Maryland?
Yeah, but a good question. Yes, it was. I was so lucky. She was very. She was really. She's gone now, but she was so supportive and so loving of my talent and taking me to the piano lessons, and she did all of those good things. And for me, the high point was when I did a performance with an orchestra. I had this Pops Cole Porter concert that I did, and it wasn't with the New York Philharmonic. It was connected with Wheeling, West Virginia, which is a college that my sisters had gone to. Anyway, so I did this concert, and and she heard me. So I always wanted her to hear me with an orchestra, to kind of that I had done that, and that was very moving for me that she came, and she was quite proud of what I had done. Music really was a big connection between her and me. And my father as well loved music. He loved the opera. My siblings, not so much, but um, actually, I always say that music has brought everyone into my life, from lovers to jobs to friends to you. Everyone I know is somehow connected with the great lingua franca of music, and I'm so grateful for that.
Was Ted Hooks your first extended
Oh,
gig?
that was a great job. Yeah, I was. Where was I working? I was working someplace. I was working. I forget where I was. Some saloon, I think.
The other
And
engagements were very limited.
there weren't. Yeah, I don't can't remember where I when I went to backstage for the first time. Uh, I had there was a very enterprising and charming and very helpful man to me in the cabaret world in those days, who really found me a lot of work, called Donald Smith. Who I'm sure you know him, and he was a great believer in my work, as he was in so many of us who played in the cabaret world. And oh yes, he was the one that got me from backstage to the Algonquin Hotel. But backstage was great. A wonderful music director and arranger named Peter Howard
I
was the
knew
first person to play at this really wonderful entertainment backstage piano bar. It was the hub of theatrical people. Everybody came,
And this is
and
after theater.
I'm
What
sorry,
time? What time did this start? So after theater? No.
'77.
The time of the evening.
Oh, I see. I guess I went in there at about 9 o'clock, maybe. They were trying to, so I would play a bit for those who didn't go to the theater, and then we had an after theater crowd that came in, and it was there that I really had to sing, because later on they wanted people to sing the songs, and he would have a lot of guest artists who would get up and sing. But it was a terrific club, and I was very happy to be there and meet so many friends there. Uh, that was in the '77 to '79, I think, the late '70s. And then I moved to the Algonquin Hotel, which is a big important chapter in my life, because I was there for a long time. The most beautiful room and meaningful. And then to other places and stuff like that.
At Ted Hooks, who were some of the performers who came in?
Uh, yes, I've often asked that. Well, I remember Mel Torme sang. He sang there. Helen, the the Helen O'Connell, the band singer, the '40s
Right?
band singer.
Glenn
She
Miller, right?
sang. She was charming. I
What about
played for,
theater? What about theater people? Did people come from
well, I
Broadway?
played for Ginger. I played for Ginger Rogers, who was in town once for probably some anniversary of Girl Crazy, her first show. And I remember her coming into this thing, and she was introduced and looking beautiful. And I said, what would you like to sing? She said, well, I'll sing the song I introduced, but not for me. And I said, do you know your key? And I just remember one manicured finger coming down on B flat or something. She said, I don't know my key, honey, but that's my high note. So I figured those little stories. And then one time, Liza would come in there a lot. One time she sang, and her backup was Chita Rivera and her daughter, Lisa Mordente. So that was kind of a fun thing. And, I remember Kay Thompson got up and sang once, and Hugh,
What do
Hugh
you remember?
Martin.
What do you remember, Kate? How do you remember what Kate did? One of her songs?
No, I don't remember anything about she did, but she was live and she kind of climbed over chairs to get to the keyboard. And Hugh Martin's partner was who?
You romantic partner or writing
No,
partner?
no, 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 no. His singer-songwriting partner. I'm just having a mental block.
Ralph Blaine.
Ralph Blaine. He was there. He got up and sang and played.
Now have you read the Hugh Martin book? He said that
I haven't.
I knew him slightly, but his
Oh, yeah.
contention is they never really wrote songs together. And the majority of all the songs are Hugh Martin. And he just, out of kindness, let the Ralph Blaine name.
I never knew that.
That's what he said.
I wonder if we read the Ralph Blaine book, if he would say the same.
I don't think
thing.
he ever wrote a book, but he said Best Foot Forward was their first major thing. He said
I didn't know that.
Ralph wrote Buckle Down Winsaki all by himself.
Yeah. Oh.
And he said, I vote. And for The Girl Next Door, he said Ralph came up with the address.
That was it?
That was it.
And then well, listen, address, a title, whatever that could send it. Yeah, but everyone who knew him, Michael knew him, everyone who knew him, and I never met him, thought he was a very sweet guy, and of course a very talented one. Did you ever meet him, Hugh Martin?
They were going to do a recording of a revival of Musicals Tonight, the Mel Miller. You know Mel Miller, the Musicals Tonight?
Yeah, sure, of course, yeah.
And so I was going to I've recorded this show, Look Mine Dancing, for which there was original recording, a 10-inch on Decca with Nancy Walker. But Mel said, there's a lot of music that didn't fit on the 10-inch record. So, and Georgia Engel, normally Mel had,
I love Georgia. Wonderful lady, sweetheart.
But he did not want Georgia to be, he said, I'm happy to have you record all the songs from my show. He called me out of the blue. This is Hugh Martin. And he said,
that must have been interesting.
He said, I'm sure you could use a little financial assistance. At that point, I didn't need as much. I could use more financial assistance today, but So he said, I'll send you $1,000.
Wow,
that's nice. But I do not want Georgia Engel on the recording. That is the caveat that it cannot be done if Georgia Engel is on the recording.
Well,
she was still performing, and I see no reason.
I didn't know. Everybody loved her, but anyway, he must have had his own reasons. It was not personal, I don't think.
He must have seen the show and not like what she did, I guess.
That's fair enough. People don't like everything.
But it had Noah Racy was in it.
Yeah,
very proud now.
Yeah,
that he was not known for anything at that point, and I'm now proud that the other Mel Miller shows didn't have anybody particularly in them. They were just recorded them for the songs, just with piano.
Well, that all sounds good. So because you've been very helpful to all of us in recording these things, and it's just as we said before, this seems to be the age of looking back and collecting thoughts and having podcasts and interviews with people, and it's far more intense, or that is to say, populated than ever before. Look at the work you're doing, and I have so many people who do podcasts and archives, and it seems to be a time of great reflection on the past. Perhaps it's because the future is ever more uncertain that we want to examine the good that has happened in American music in the last 50 years and make sure that it's chronicled by its performers, which is all great for me, and it will be great for generations after us.
Are you reluctant to see new works?
Reluctant? No, I'm chary. Let's put that word in. I'm waiting all morning to use that word. Sometimes I applaud the new songwriters, and I wish them well. I just tend not to keep up with so many of them. It's a time constraint more than anything else. But
What shows
I just have my work cut out for me with the ones that I know already. Actually,
what shows have you recalled seeing on
I
Broadway?
haven't
And
seen I um I haven't seen any
the
shows since.
Drowsy Chaperone, perhaps?
Well, no. I mean, in times gone by, that was fantastic. That was a paean to our music. Of course, that was a delicious show. I adored that show.
Could you have played the man in the chair?
The man in the chair. Now, that's your role. You could have been the man in the chair. I'm sure you identified it as soon as you saw it. It was wonderful. I love that show because that was pastiche writing of the highest order. And I love that. And of course, the Sondheim stuff is always brilliant. Uh, but I'm not moved to see many of the Disney productions. It's fine. They are bringing music to kids and to people, and the songs are often very well written indeed. It just doesn't grab me that much to see them. Um, and some of the other musicals are not in my style. I hate to be so retrogressive here, but I I have a yen to explore the songs that I know, and from that era, I somehow feel moved to be a representative of that era, and that takes up my time more than a lot of the new things. I might have felt differently 20 years ago, but at the moment, not particularly. I have my hands full with the other,
Well,
which isn't to say that I haven't. Everyone talks about people younger than we are all the time. I guess maybe my parents and your parents talked about, oh, the younger generation, the younger generation. Uh, but I have heard some wonderful teenagers sing these songs. The Cabaret Convention, which is an annual event, started from many years ago by the aforementioned Donald Smith. A marvelous couple decided to fund a competition from members of the performing arts high schools around town. And one of the nights at the convention featured their singing. And the requirement was that they sing a songbook number. And I was so impressed, so impressed. The age range went from 17, 18, 19, and they just sang so well and so connected to these songs. It was very hopeful. Whether what will ever happen to them or music is only God only knows. Well, I mean, I don't recommend that they go into the cabaret business unless they have a trust fund or something. But I was very heartened by the fact that the song still connected to people, and that these young people sang them so beautifully, so professionally, and they got what the words were for the song, and that was nice, very nice to hear.
So do you go to see any particular singers?
I try to support some of the modern singers that I know, but some of the veterans. I went to the other night to hear a wonderful Lorenz Hart show with Karen Oberlin, who is a well-respected performer, and I recently did a show in the East Village, uh, a Bastille Day show with the beautiful Karen Akers, who never disappoints,
So
and
hoping to
and
do,
some of the.
I'm hoping to
Sorry.
do a new recording because she's not recorded in 10 years. And I think this is a crime. And she has wonderful shows that, unless we record them, will never exist except at the moment that people see them.
No, this is true. That's always the yeah. But I see you have a different slant on it. Um, Sometimes the show just exists for that moment, uh, but you want to record the world. I did a show recently that I thought was a terrific show, but they didn't have the capacity to record it. So uh, to produce a record, to go into a studio, the way I did when you liked the Noel Coward stuff, I took the ladies down and we recorded in a studio of the show that you had heard. That it seems to be an expensive thing to do, and I don't know whether the world needs another recording of my work particularly. I was going through all my stuff recently, and I have so many recordings. They're just recordings sometimes from the soundboard of the club, more often than not from the back seat of the club, and those are not of interest to anybody. The quality is is
So,
negligible.
so
I mean,
for
as a record, archival
purpose.
quality, that's it. And I don't want to hear those again. But so I found a couple of good ones that I hadn't known were done properly. I think what I want to do is to do a kind of series of recordings of if I can spend the time to cherry pick some recordings that I've made over the years. That might be kind of interesting. But no one's buying discs, so it would have to be some kind of digital
Yeah,
archive recording. Steve Ross Volume 1, Steve Ross Volume, that kind of thing. That might be of interest, I guess. I don't know. Am I being artificially humble here that people won't want to hear my stuff? I haven't. That's yet to be decided. But anyway, I already have about 10 or 11 CDs around. So if they want to hear what I sounded like, they can certainly buy those or go on the internet.
did Carolyn Oberlin have any unusual Rogers and
I'm
Hart
sorry?
song? Did
Say
Carolyn
it again.
Ober did Karen Oberlin have
Oh, yeah.
any unusual
Uh,
Rogers and Hart?
yes, what was wonderful about her show, she's such a lovely lady, and she and I did a Fred and Ginger show, and she sings so well and so intelligently. And this is a new effort of hers. She did research. This is the way we used to do it when you do a tribute show. So she did the research and read the books and spoke during the show a little bit about Rogers and Hart because and if you didn't know anything, this was nice though. If you hadn't, if you just came in, oh, here's this pretty lady singing songs, you would have been. It was infotainment. You would have learned as well as been entertained, which I thought was a good part of her. I mean, we all think that everybody knows everything, but many they don't. And she had some interesting facts about his life that we all know, but maybe the public might not know. And what was exciting to me is that she sang uh, a song that Rogers had written but had never published, I think. Oh, no, it was a very unusual song that Michael Feinstein, our great champion here, had given to her because he knows he has everything. So it was nice to hear a totally new Rogers and Hart song. That was fun. And
You
she
know
put it
the
into a lovely.
origin? You know the
I'm sorry?
origin? You know the origin of the song?
I can't even remember the name of it. No, I can't recall the details of it, frankly, but uh, she would have them. But I just know that it was unpublished, and it kind of get. Yeah. I know that there's one. If there's one word that excites you, Bruce, it's called unpublished.
Oh, yeah.
That's
And,
the most exciting word in your life.
no, unrecorded. I don't mind.
Oh, I'm sorry. I take it back.
It's easier.
Unrecorded is the one that you
A
love.
lot of
That's your
times
main.
there is no sheet music. Or, I've wanted to record Broadway shows, and the
Yeah,
orchestrations have been thrown out. I
I know,
bad,
and that's
I
the.
badly wanted to record Lolita.
Ah,
It's
yeah,
beautiful songs. I mean,
yeah. There are
never
some good songs.
never going to be accepted. It becomes less
Right,
accepted today because the girl is just far too young.
right.
But Alan J. Lerner just meant that he loved this girl. He loved this little girl. He just wanted to be with her, not necessarily a sexual thing at all.
Right.
And I can understand that. You could be with somebody without anything else. You just want to be with
Of
them.
course, of course.
And
Unfortunately,
the joy of being young. They tell me that when I'm with young people, I feel, I meet people who are going into theater and I see the joy, the enthusiasm, the disappointment, the
yes, all of that.
problems.
Hmm.
And I,
Well, we feel strong because we had all of those things, and we can be there just as a silent, stronger partner in case they would seek our advice, which never is. They never seek my advice, but what I don't even know what I could tell them. I remember reading in a column when Bobby Short was asked um, about a young person wanting to go into the cabaret world. He said, "Don't." It was his own. Uh, so you have to want it. I mean,
Because for a long
the
time, he was the only cabaret performer, basically, right? He was the
well,
cabaret performer.
wait a minute. I think if I've lost myself here. Don't let me lose you here.
I see you, fine.
Okay, fine. I'll just be over here then singing it. Um, yeah, he was, and he was my model. That's for sure. When I came to town, he was the one that I really liked and had heard of, and people said, "Here's this LP of this guy named Bobby Short," and I visited him. I mean, I went to see him in the '60s when he was working in a little club, and we never were great friends, but admiring acquaintances, that's for sure. And I thought he represented, as people know, the ultimate in style and class, and the song choices were just divine. He's been my model all these years, and he's recorded widely too, which is great that he put a lot of those things
But
on.
Atlantic really was a champion. It was a
Mm,
major label. There must have been somebody there
yes, I agree. I agree. That was
that
wonderful.
appreciated it as a songbook versus pop
Yes,
hit.
he did. He did those. He did the songbook series too. I wonder how many people have. Ella was the famous one that was so pervasive and so popular. I guess others have done songbook tributes. I'm sure Sandy Stewart did one for Jerome Kern. It was a popular way to market things. I think in a way. I did a Cole Porter one. I did a Lerner one. I did a Sondheim one.
Did you know Ben Bagley at all?
He was a wonderful influence and wonderful help for me when I first came to town. He was the first person, as you know, and as the watchers might know, who really wanted to uncover the hidden treasures of these songwriters. And um, he would call them revisited. So
Yes.
he would have many albums where it would be Cole Porter revisited, and he would get singers of varying degrees of achievement to sing these very rare songs. And I loved the albums because I was waiting for all the new stuff that I hadn't heard.
Of course, the first
And
volume was always the best one. Like
in the
Rodgers and
series, yeah,
Hart one.
I agree.
Until
Arrangements, the orchestra.
they were having a
He,
little technical difficulty here.
yeah. I'm going to try to make myself, if I can get back to you here. I don't know. I hope I don't kill anything here. There you go. Okay. Uh, I remember visiting in the '60s. A friend of mine said, "Here, listen to this album," and it was Ben Bagley's first Rodgers and Hart album, and it was wonderful. I think Barbara Cook was on it, Harold Lang.
No, she wasn't
I
on the
had
first one.
see, I had experienced him because there. I'm sorry.
She was not on the first one.
Were they on?
It was
Oh,
Dorothy Loud.
maybe on the second.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the great mid 20th century performers. He got them all. I had seen first thing that wonderful show called The Decline and Fall of the Whole World as Seen Through the Eyes of Cole Porter. It was at a theater near Union Square, and I thought that was just so smart. I had always loved Cole Porter. I always, growing up and reading the New Yorker magazine, I thought that he, in my view, really encapsulated the world that I wanted to be part of. In the smartness of his lyrics, in the passion of his love songs. So I was very pleased to see this marvelous show with Kay Ballard and Harold Lang and some other people. And all those shows have existed, all those decades, '70s, '60s, and '70s. The rock and pop world, which is huge, uh, kept going. But here in New York, at least, we have this sidetrack going of people like myself singing these songs, and so they were always available in a way, which I hope to continue to do for a while.
Did you say you have the majority of the Bagley records?
I have, I don't think I listened to a lot of them, but How many did he end up doing? About 25?
Oh no, 40 some. I, I am,
Wow,
I
40
am
records?
a
40
little, a
different
little,
recordings?
a
Oh my
little
God.
plug. I am currently selling all of
Oh my gosh. I have no idea that he had recorded so widely. No, I met him. Of course, he was an eccentric guy, but all I can say about him is that he was very helpful to me. He found a graphic designer for my first album or something like that, and I really liked him, and he liked being the little bad boy of records, and he had these rather anarchic explanations of the songs. But the point is, the songs got recorded, whatever he said about them. They got recorded, and you could hear them. And you can
them.
probably hear them on.
Amazingly, he, for most of them, had full orchestras. I mean, today, the idea of coming up with a full orchestra and
Yeah,
having
I didn't know that.
orchestrations.
Well, Norman Paris was his main
Yes, he was.
in the beginning.
Yes,
I didn't know that. I wonder where he got the money for these orchestra recordings.
from other
Wow.
people.
No, he raised money, so there must have been people interested
He
in.
would go. He would go to people like B. Arthur and Tammy Grimes,
Ah,
and he said that I need money to do this.
yes, he was not embarrassed about getting money. That's for sure.
But,
But he got people to do it, and he ended up getting people paying to be on it, but who wanted to be recorded. Uh,
and then he
a
never paid.
contemporary.
He never paid anybody.
No,
The
that
big
was against his
stars.
religion.
Yes, yes. He said I can barely. He said I could barely afford to record them, let alone pay.
You know, another early one, somewhat my contemporary, or you're younger than I am, but was who did a lot of work for him was the marvelous Ann Hampton Callaway. So
Yes,
in the later group, she was the one,
right.
and she's a beautiful, beautiful singer, of course. Uh, yeah, I'm very happy that the Ben Bagley records exist for the people. Again, that presents kind of an archive of the popular songs. You have the main song books done by Ella Fitzgerald and Frank Sinatra, and then you have this parallel but interesting universe of the lesser known songs, which is where you come in. So I guess we all have a role in keeping this particular bit of culture alive, and I'm grateful to be part of it.
I was jealous that he had personal connections to all these people. He went to Richard Rodgers, and Richard Rodgers says no one wants to hear my unsuccessful songs. And Ben
I,
said, that's not true.
so I didn't know. So he had audacity. He just went to the people,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes, yes.
And somehow got their permission to do these things.
Right.
By and large, I think they were okay. Some of the people later on had star value, but not necessarily a lot of musicality. I won't mention any names, of course, but by and large, I think he provided a great service for all of us. In fact,
Amazed that he actually went to Katharine Hepburn.
yes, I was just thinking of her.
Would you have the audacity to approach Katharine Hepburn when she was
Of course
alive?
not. Of course not. But
But,
but
she
he
told
did it.
him she told him what song she was going to sing. She would not sing his songs.
Yeah.
She said, "I'm going to do songs I'm
Whatever.
comfortable with."
But as she should have. So that was their deal on that one. But you did have. Now we look back and say, well, it wasn't a great musical performance, but it's Katharine Hepburn. At the time when she was around, she was in our consciousness in one way, but now that she's gone and has her place in the pantheon of actors and singers, not so much singers, then we're very happy to have Katharine Hepburn singing anything. So that's what I kind of keep going in my mind about getting these songs done.
Did you not see Coco?
I loved Coco. She was an electrifying performer. It was wonderful.
They have that
And that was
15,
called
20
star
minute,
quality.
they have a 20-minute segment, sort of the highlights of Coco, filmed in the Helen chair. And you're thinking, this is Michael Bennett. This production today would cost $80 million.
Yeah. Is this the segment that was on the Tony Awards?
Right. And she said,
and it's the longest segment of any show ever put on the Tony Awards.
She said,
and we are so lucky to have it. It's gorgeous.
Yes. Right.
So, anyway, all of that goes on, and we're living in a day, as I said, where a lot of these things are reconsidered for various societal reasons, and new versions of this, new versions of that, new versions of that. Some of which are successful, and some of which, for us older folks, might not be so successful. I mean, you asked earlier about my going to shows. I certainly applaud, not that they're seeking my applause, but I certainly applaud the artistic spirit to recreate something. I mean, when I'm singing a Cole Porter song and a fast song and I sing it, I'm recreating it, and and sometimes it can be done quite these days quite radically with different racial people doing different roles that we would say, how could that ever happen? Of course, general casting has been in the opera world for years. If you can sing, you can sing. But it's a very interesting time. Sometimes the things work for me, but if I have these great performances in my mind, in a way, if I may say it to myself, I don't need to see that show again. Whereas were I younger, I'd want to see every production of She Loves Me. I've seen a couple. I don't need to see them again because I don't have that much time and I need to do other things. That's just me. And I think probably I've had a long and lucky life in music, so that's just the way I feel about things. But God bless them, and a work of art being reconsidered and re-put in front of the public, why not?
Do not go to any of the encore series, or the New Yorkers, or Anyone Can Whistle.
What is the question, Bruce?
Do not go to the encore production.
Oh, yeah, no. The big exception, of course, is the encore series, which has been wonderful. I don't know how long ago it was started, but it was started years ago about the New Amsterdam Theater Productions. They were the one, Billy, whatever his name was, uh, doing concert versions of these shows, which was marvelous to hear them with an orchestra. And then John McGlynn did some wonderful things. So those are a great treat because you get to hear not just a guy at a piano, but you get to hear a full orchestra, which is thrilling. And many of those have been recorded. So now we have those archives as well. Yeah. So what I played when I came to town, I was playing in the '60s, the late '60s actually. I in the early '70s, it seemed to be a down point in musical theater. I don't remember what was going on, but I remember saying to myself, "Well, I'm glad I saw the few that I did see." But then, as things happened, there was kind of a revival of the older shows, 42nd Street, No No Nanette, and it proved that they had an audience as well. So maybe not maybe, the two are coexisting, these two tracks of musical theater. Why not? All the better for that. Why can't we hear the old? Why can't we hang a Rembrandt and a more modern picture up on the walls at the same time?
Well,
It might be more work for me to look at the new picture rather than the old, but I certainly would fight for the existence of it.
unfortunately, now I've been taken over by people who believe they have to be reinterpreted for today's world.
They have to be, yes. I'm a little bored by that. They feel that they have to be reinterpreted. I do not feel that injunction, and I don't know whether that's utterly successful. I don't know whether whom they have to be reinterpreted for themselves or to gain more people on seats.
There would not have been a revival on Broadway of Oklahoma were it not radically changed, where Curly shoots Judd instead of accidentally has a knife put in him.
I
That's
didn't
a
know.
reinterpretation of that.
Yes,
But
right.
it led to, and now it's touring.
Mm.
So, if you're bothered by changing the story without changing the word, they do not change any words.
Right.
But the physical action, if I shoot you, that's a whole different act than us fighting over a knife.
Of course. Absolutely. And I don't know. I'm not sitting around in the meetings or I'm not in the minds of the creative team. And so I don't know what is their motivation to shock, or or to give, just to be free, a valid reinterpretation of something. I don't know. I've heard that Mr. Sondheim himself really likes this reinterpretation of West Side Story, so he's the man who wrote it,
And
and apparently it's quite successful. I've not seen it.
Company is really being reinterpreted with
Yeah,
a
right.
Bobby as a female.
Out of that, yes, that's the age we live in, and I probably would have really enjoyed it. I hope I would have been open to enjoying it. And I don't want to be a stiff, intractable person in the audience. I want to
What
try
what
to
do you
applaud people that are doing good things.
what do you personally think of really changing the ending of My Fair Lady? Now it's back to Bernard Shaw, so there's some justification that Bernard Shaw did not want Henry Higgins and
But
Eliza to get
so,
together, but Alan J. Lerner certainly did, and I do. I want
so that was an early example of a real reinterpretation, and he got away with it, and that's how people know it.
and I'm grown
So
accustomed to your face
yeah,
is not a great demonstration of love, but it still is terribly touching.
yeah, very.
Almost make my day begin.
It's a lovely song, and I think the audience goes away a bit happier than they might have other than that. I don't know his exact reasoning for that, but it might have been just to give a musical comedy a happy ending. It may have been for that, but that's how we know it. And he was a brilliant man of the theater, so it's not the worst. I wonder. I'm sorry. I guess he might have been enjoined against doing it by the estate, but he got away with it. There you go.
But
And that's how we know it. That's
now
how we like it.
the current ending, she just walks out.
Yes, right. Yeah. So, what can I tell you? They didn't ask me, or they didn't ask you, but we can have our opinions on everything.
But, I said, would you be afraid to go to a Broadway show wearing a mask?
No. Oh, would I be going? Wearing a mask? Did you say?
Yes.
No, no. I mean, if that's what they're doing, I would be okay. One is doing that all the time. When I work in a nightclub, they allow them to sit, eat, and drink without a mask. But when they're walking around, you're supposed to have a mask. So I don't know where all this will go. I guess it may be the foreseeable future. It's interesting. Little kids growing up, this is all they know.
I
So
see some. I'm in an area where sometimes masks are required and sometimes they're not.
yeah,
And I
this is
see
true.
small children seem to enjoy. Everyone else in the family does not have a mask on, and the little child of 3 or 4 obviously wants to wear the mask. I want to wear the mask.
Oh, do they? I haven't talked to any
Not in every
4-year-olds recently.
instance, not in every instance, but
I haven't talked to any 4-year-olds recently. The next time I meet one, I'll have to query him or her, and see what he really feels like, or she. Anyway, so that's my story.
well, I think we've done a pretty thorough job of covering. One thing we didn't talk to, you were actually on Broadway for a time, in a Noel Coward piece.
That was one. Yes, I've always been a Noel Coward fan, and I have the extreme good fortune of playing in Present Laughter in the late '90s with Frank Langella, a superb American actor, as you know. And that was a great treat. A big chapter in my life. I loved doing that. I went
And
over
what,
to Lincoln Center a couple of years ago and watched it, and it was pretty good.
what
Pretty good.
how involved are you in it? What do you do? What is your participation?
I'm not sure of your question. Say it again.
I saw it, but I can't remember. Did you play
Oh,
between
oh no,
before?
I played. They had a stage curtain, which was really the front of the brownstone, and before that, they had the little piano there, and I played at half hour. Played songs from the '30s, and then at a given moment, um, they had the great Leo Reisman recording of Night and Day, and the curtain would break away, and it was the interior, the glamorous interior of the man's house. and the piano tracked in about 5 feet, and I became the Cockney valet. So I had a real life part on Broadway, which is for a singer, pianist, and cabaret guy a little bit unexpected, but it was a wonderful time for me. I loved being in it, and I loved Coward very much.
But were you
And
reluctant at all? Did you say, "Oh, I can't act"? You don't expect me to act on stage?
no, I know, but I did. I
Did you say, "Well, you
coached with
have
it.
to"?
Well, I got a coach, and I said, "What am I supposed to? How am I supposed to say these lines in a Cockney accent?" And I did, and I mean, I was not unaccustomed to appearing in front of people. I really liked doing it. I would say no. I would not say no to another appearance in a show. I would love that because I think I could do it well. But there aren't that many roles for the more mature singer pianist in musicals these days.
I do think Noel Coward will come back.
Well, I don't know.
And
I'm doing a
that's
show tomorrow night of the great Noel Coward scholar is Barry Day, and he's written many, many books, and he has a new book about Noel Coward, and we're doing a show at the Players Club here in town with a bunch of us singing and playing Noel Coward. I always am a little bit wary about Noel Coward in America, because if he's so British, but I am not alone in having a wonderful case of Anglophilia. I do love the English wit, the sense of it, this slightly exotic for the Americans, slightly. Well, look at the reception of things like Downton Abbey and The Crown. We do love the motherland in a way. And Coward was just, unlike so many of them that didn't translate, his songs seemed to work. I mean, Ivor Novello, for example, did these very dreamy operettas, which are considered a little bit passé now. But Coward's songs keep going. They keep going in their own way. And I love singing them. People seem to enjoy listening to them. So I'll do that as long as I can.
well, let's hope all of us can stay around and sing as much as we can. And again, I thank you very much for this program. And,
Well, I'm delighted that you're doing it. I hope I had a few things to say that were interesting. And we appreciate, again, not only your recording impulses, but this was a new thing that I didn't know about of these interviews. And maybe one day we will be, maybe 50 years from now. Hello, 50 years from now. Hello, posterity. I hope you're watching.
very good. So thank
Thank
you
you,
again.
Bruce.
Okay,
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye-bye.